Hey everybody, I'm going to go through really quickly our chapter 13 chapter on electricity, and it's the basics of electricity. And there's a lot covered in this chapter. I'm not going to talk about everything in here, but there's some things that you really need to focus on when you're studying for this chapter. And a lot of times we need to start with the basics, like what is electricity? And electricity is not matter. We talked about chemistry in the last chapter, and we talked about matter and how everything's made up of matter. Electricity is a little bit different. It's the movement of electrons from one atom to another along a conductor. And it has magnetic properties, chemical properties, thermal effects. If you've ever been shocked, you know what that feels like. So it's its own creature, and we use it quite a bit in cosmetology. So when we talk about electricity, we use terms like electric current, conductor, non-conductor, and these are all things you probably already know. So electric current, we already talked about. It's the flow of electricity along a conductor. Well, what is a conductor? A conductor is something that electricity can travel through. Examples of a conductor would be metal, copper. Water is not a great conductor, but I know you've all heard don't be standing in a puddle in a lightning storm. But it's basically any material that conducts electricity. And then we have non-conductors. And non-conductors are just as important because they are used to help protect us from the electric current. So things that don't conduct electricity: rubber, wood, glass, cement. Those are all things that don't conduct electricity. So there's two basic types of electric current, and we use both of those in cosmetology. So you have direct current, which is DC, direct current, and it's a constant, even flowing current in one direction. So if you think about DC, think about a battery. You have a positive side and a negative side, and current flows through it in one direction. We use battery operated things all the time in the salon. So that would be DC, direct current. AC is alternating current. That's what you get when you plug something into the wall. So it's a rapid interrupted current that is changing directions. So it's going back and forth from its source very quickly. So it's just moving back and forth. It's alternating. So anytime you plug something into the wall, your blow dryer, your curling iron, any appliance you plug into the wall, you're using alternating current. So there's a lot of terms associated with electricity that you'll need to know. Things you've probably heard before but didn't really know what they meant. Volt, ampere, milliampere, ohm, watt, kilowatt, things like that. So a volt is a unit that measures the pressure or force that pushes the current along the conductor. So a volt is how hard the force is moving it along the current. An amp measures the strength of that current. So you've got your volt, which is the force that's moving it. The amp is how strong it is. So how muscly is that electricity that's being pushed along. A milliampere is 1/1000th of an amp. An ohm is how much resistance. So if you push something, let's say you're pushing a piece of furniture across carpet, you're going to get some resistance from the carpet as you push it. So an ohm is measuring that resistance that the electricity is getting. So if the electricity is not going along a really good conductor, it's going to have more resistance than if it's on a great conductor. So your ohm is a measure of I'm sorry. I messed up there. Um, yes, I didn't mess up too bad. An ohm measures the resistance. Your watt. Now, you've probably seen watt a lot. Like you see a 40-watt light bulb or a 60-watt light bulb. So what that means is it's the amount of energy being used in 1 second. That's what a watt is. It's how much energy is being used in 1 second. So if it's a 40-watt, it's using 40 per second as opposed to 60 in a 60-watt bulb. Kilowatt is 1,000 watts. So those are some terms you want to think about. Also, when we talk about electricity, there's some safety stuff that we need to think about in the salon. First and foremost, electricity and water do not mix. Don't go to plug in your flat iron with a wet hand. That's a really bad idea. So when we think about safety, the first thing I think about is a circuit breaker. Now, a lot of your appliances, like your blow dryer, has on the plug, it has a little red button. That's a type of circuit breaker. If it feels like that there's too much current flowing through that plug, it's gonna break the circuit. So it's gonna create a gap so electricity can no longer flow because it would become overheated. Your home has circuit breakers, and if they sense that, if something is pulling too much current, or overheating or has a short, that circuit breaker is going to flip and it's going to break the circuit, so no more electricity is flowing to that outlet. And those have saved so many homes and buildings since they were invented. Before we had circuit breakers, we had fuses, which did the same thing, but they used a little lead. If you've ever looked at your car fuses, there's like a little lead string in there, and if it overheats because too much current is flowing through, that thread would break or melt and it would stop the current. So homes used to have fuse boxes. Older homes did. Most homes now, or all homes now, have to have circuit breakers as opposed to fuses, but there's still some old buildings out there that might still have fuses. If they do, they really need to be updated. When we talk about safety, we talk about grounding. And what grounding does is it carries current safely away. That just think of it as carrying it away. Then you have ground fault interrupters, or your GFIs. Those are like the outlets that you see in your bathrooms and your kitchens, anywhere that it's going to be near water. Each outlet has its own little breaker so that it can be safe. When you're looking for appliances for your salon, whether it be a flat iron, a blow dryer, a set of clippers, anything that uses electricity, there is usually a little tag on the cord, and you'll see a little circle with a UL inside that circle. And everything you use should be UL certified. When they're UL certified, it means they're safe, okay? So it means they've been tested, they're safe for use. A lot of times we will get stuff from other countries. An example is ordered a facial machine, and it came from China, and then we realized it wasn't UL certified. So the current wasn't as safe as something that was UL certified. So anything you have, look for that little UL in the circle on the tag to know that it's UL certified. It just means it's going to be safer to use. Keep all your plugs and wires in good shape. So don't wrap your cords around your curling irons and flat irons. Check your cords regularly. The rubber coating on the outside of that cord needs to be intact. That's what's protecting you. You can get shocked. If that insulator on the outside of the cord becomes cracked or broken, or you laid it on something and part of it melted and there's wire exposed, then you risk being electrocuted. Most people would just go grab some electrical tape and wrap it around there and say, okay, it's safe now. But I guarantee you that the fire marshal will have a difference of opinion on that. Once that cord is damaged, you need to get rid of the appliance and get a new one. You shouldn't try to fix your appliances. If your blow dryer breaks, don't take it apart and try and fix it. An electrician can do that, but most of them won't bother. It's time to get a new blow dryer if something happens with that. I have seen blow dryers catch fire because they were overheating. So you want to keep all of your appliances in good condition and pay close attention to the cords and the plugs. Never yank it out of the wall. Grab the plug and pull it out of the wall. Don't yank it by the cord because you're going to damage it. Let's see. There's a lot of times we use electricity in the salon. And we get into that more when we get into aesthetics. When we get into the skincare side of cosmetology, we start using electricity a lot more. We're using electrodes, like little metal things that we put on the skin that put electricity into the skin. We'll start talking about polarity, whether something's putting a positive or negative electric charge on something. So we use things like galvanic current, microcurrent, high frequency current. We're also using a lot of things that are considered light therapy that we need electricity in order to do. So there are, let's see, there are LED treatments, which are very popular. And they use all different colors of LED light. And LED, if you didn't know, just means light emitting diode. So that might be a test question you want to think about. So we use infrared light, we use LED light in light therapy, we use lasers, and be careful about all these things. Most of these things, if you're going to do microcurrent or microdermabrasion, you're going to need an extra certification beyond just your cosmetology license. You need to be trained on that equipment and be certified in it. Lasers is one of the things where we're not licensed to do laser treatment. The only time we can ever be around lasers in use is if we're under the supervision of a doctor. So we have to have a physician supervising our use of a laser. So there's a lot of laser hair removal that goes on in dermatologists' offices and spas, where, or not just a spa, but like a medi-spa, where they actually have nurses and physicians on staff to do those types of treatments. So you are not licensed to do laser treatment, but if you go into that field and you get a job in a medi-spa, you may be trained to do it under the supervision of a doctor, and that's the only way you can do it. So there's a lot of different things that electricity plays a part in our industry. So read through the chapter, think about it, maybe even, go around and visit a medi-spa and see the kinds of treatments that they have available. It can be very interesting. If you're really into hair, you're probably not going to be as interested in this, but electricity still has something to do with what your profession is, because you're using electricity every day with all of your appliances, the lights, everything that you use. Electricity and water are the two things we use the most in the salon, and they are the two things that most don't go together. So if you don't take anything out of this at all, except water and electricity are bad together, you want to keep them separated, then you've gotten something out of this. So you will have an assignment a little bit of a research assignment to do along with your chapter 13. So you guys have a good time studying and email me with any questions you have.